Emily Liggett, and I would like to tell you a bit about my board journey. So, quickly, I am an engineer. So, most of my experience on boards and work experience has been around technology-based companies. So, when I think about I was a CEO, always in tech companies. When I think about my first board, I was with a large company and running a business, and we did a joint venture in Japan. So, I was the board member in Japan. So that was my first board role, private company in Japan, learned a lot culturally and about private boards. My second board was a nonprofit board. And I sat next to someone at a dinner and got to know her. And she called later and asked if I would join this nonprofit board because we had talked about, I didn't realize she was looking for a board member. So, but we talked about the mission and I had a lot of interest in that. It was for foster children. And my third board was a public company, interestingly enough. And it was a technology company that I actually knew the technology and this markets because I had worked in them. And their new VP of marketing had worked for me at an earlier role. And so she had recommended me to the board and I came on. So that was my first three boards. I was not seeking to be on a board. I hadn't thought much about it, but that's how it happened. I will say I started doing interim CEO work and both of public and private companies. And that got me very interested in governance from the sense that when someone needs an emergency interim CEO, it's a good signal that something's not quite right at the company. And when I would get there and talk to employees and customers and suppliers and the exited CEO, it was never their choice, and the board, I heard such a different story about the company. And it was a clue, right, about this relationship between management, CEOs, and the board and communication. And this will date me a little bit, but there used to be a column in I think it was a Good Housekeeping magazine that was called, "Can This Marriage Be Saved?" And they'd introduce, the wife would tell her story, the husband would tell his story, and then the counselors would talk, the therapist. And when you read those two stories, you thought they were talking about a different marriage, right? Because they were so inconsistent between the two of them. And that's what it felt like when I would go in on these interim CEO roles, was that what on earth happened and can this company be saved? So that definitely got me interested in governance and how we could do it better. But back to my, getting on boards, and I've been on 19 boards, but about a third between public, private, and nonprofit. And, as I thought back through it for this conversation, I realized they had almost all come through a recommendation from someone, a referral. Even the few that came through an executive search or some search firm, they had gotten my name from the company or from some other place. So I thought that was, interesting because you hear so much about networks. And I would wonder, gosh, it's really that important. And thinking about these companies, I realize actually it is. That's how people get to know you. And some of the introductions came because I coached soccer with someone, right? Or I worked with them in some community event. And that's how we got to know each other. And they heard what I did and that, that kind of thing. So I think you do your life and you spend your time doing things you like doing and can do well. And you share information with people, and maybe you're not looking for a board seat, which was almost always my case, but one would come to me, and if it was something I was passionate about and I liked the people and I felt I could make a difference, then I would seriously consider it. I was invited to be on a venture-backed board because they had a first-time woman CEO and they wanted her to be mentored. And so I became an independent director on that board. So they all have a different story, but I would say the through line had to be that someone I had worked for me. I had worked with someone or someone knew me or someone they knew me. And so when they were looking for someone with some certain qualities, capabilities, experience, that my name came up and they gave me a call and we went from there. So I hope that's helpful in your journey.